just recently on Wake Up with, which is the new Mike Greenberg program after Mike and Mike split up. And essentially what he said is our intent is to play as many games as possible when we can. If that means moving our regular season later into November, and then that means moving the MLS Cup back into mid-December. We've done that for many, many years. They actually just recently moved it up into November. So if they then got pushed back into December, I think they're certainly okay with that shift schedule.
Yeah.
And I think they would be okay. Their intent at the moment is to still play as many of the 34 games for each team as possible. And they still want to stick with the single elimination
playoff format
game for the MLS Cup, which was very, very exciting, a lot more traditional than more of a series, which they had done in the past. But it looks like they're moving forward with wanting to play as many as they can as soon as they get kind of the clear and the go ahead. So Don Garber's interview with ESPN on Get Up was Tuesday morning, so you can find it on MLSsoccer.com if you wanted to watch it.
Okay. Yeah. I think MLS is at least poised for having such a long span of time to play those games. I think they may come out of this, in I guess least affected. And really just because they have so many days, to be able to go into December, I think that's a great point you bring up of their previous years. Yeah, I think they, can come out of this most unscathed compared to the other leagues.
Agreed.
And the one
I think they certainly could.
Which I would also put that up against even NFL, which we haven't talked about yet. But the NFL is an interesting one right now because you would look at them originally and go, well, all this is going to blow over. The NFL isn't going to have, much going against them. Then we'll be able to start it up and everything's going to be good to go. They even still are holding firm on the draft is going to happen this month in April. I think that's interesting. Is it going to be a closed draft? Are they trying to keep the public away from the whole tailgating vibe that they used to? I mean, if they're hopeful of that, status quo of year over year, what it looks like, I don't think it's happening. I think they're going to have to do this more of like a closed door type of just televised event. If they're doing it still at all. I think they are doing the televised event. They aren't.
If I remember correctly, they haven't made an announcement that there will be no fans.
Okay.
Or people inside the building or the venue that they're choosing. So
that's going to be a different, and that's just an effort then to keep the train rolling, which I get. There's a lot of people who are going to be entering the draft, of course, and you want to get those players and that talent out there. And even with the acquisitions coming over from the XFL, I think there's a couple of deals that have been made, and just really with college seasons, the eligibility coming up for certain players too. I think there's a lot of unanswered questions. I think this will help, if the NFL can do it, just kind of bring that sense of normalcy. Like, yeah, we're still, planning on doing all this. We're going to get these guys going, so no one's just left in limbo or forgotten about. Mm-hmm. But once that is said and done with, there's an important date, much like with baseball, that whatever's happening by May 1st is going to be that barometer and will tell us, is the NFL season really on track to still begin for preseason in August and then week 1 in September? If May 1st, teams aren't getting into the gyms and getting back to train and be social, then that should be an instant red flag for all these teams to prepare themselves for a different kind of season on what was originally scheduled.
Yeah, I think with the NFL, the first thing they would do would be cut off some of the preseason games, where two teams play 5, because whoever plays the Hall of Fame game.
Right.
And then, every other team plays 4. I would certainly expect if they do have to shorten something or, if they need to build in, a couple week cushion there, that they would cut off some of those preseason games and still try and start on the same time and just push back, OTAs and mini camps and stuff. I think that would be the first plan. They would still want to have, 2, probably at least 2 preseason games. But if they had to, they would be able to shift a little bit the regular season. But certainly with even out having to shift the start date, they could do cut off some preseason games, which I'm sure they would go for first, and that would obviously sting for the people at the bottom of NFL rosters, because that would make it certainly a lot tougher to make a team. But I think that would be the first thing they would.
Oh, no doubt.
They would do.
Yeah, and I think that makes a lot of sense. Being the violent nature of what football is, the conditioning is going to be so sensitive that if players are not feeling like they're at their best come week one, that's going to I think that would surface a lot sooner than just 1 week out or anything. It would make the headlines of the NFL season being impacted in some way if the players have not been able to train, practice, condition themselves, get ready for that season. So again, looking at that May 1st, right now, NFL has every intention of starting exactly the way they had planned it, still running the draft and acting as if nothing is really going to change for what they had set out to do. However, it's delicate since we know how much has evolved in the past just 3 or 4 weeks for us here, that we're not out of the woods yet. Once we get through this month, May 1st is going to tell us a lot as far as how far could this really go as far as impacts. So if worst case scenario as far as sports are concerned, we could see seasons just never getting picked back up again.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me that if something decides to call the season right now, NHL and NBA would obviously be the first to make that call. And if I had to guess, it would be the NBA first. They tend to be the most player-centric league out there, very much fan-centric, and as much as they would hate to give it up, they would probably be the first because they are also the most progressive league of the 4 major sports to make the right calls when they need to. So that would be my inclination for them. Those two would be the first two to just cancel, and we'll see what happens with the others as we go through it.
Yeah, and certainly in the next episode we will touch base a bit on where those sports are. I think in the next couple of episodes we'll readdress these and see where we go with everything. But I think it's a good idea to keep moving on our episode, because I got a Who You Got this week, Eric, that I was a little more excited about. And actually, I got this idea from the MLS website, looking up some of these sports and what they've been up to during the COVID crisis. And they had their own Mount Rushmore of MLS players. So that's an interesting idea. So I wanted to propose to you, Eric, who you got on your sports Mount Rushmore that includes, you can't use the same sport more than once. So you have to have a representative of all 4 major American sports, because there's only 4 on Mount Rushmore, right?
Yes.
So looking at football, basketball, baseball, hockey.
Who you got? Can you name the 4 on Mount Rushmore?
Teddy's up there. I think Lincoln,
Teddy's
Washington.
Up there. Lincoln, Washington. Who's the other one?
Don't know.
You know it?
Don't know.
Jefferson.
Oh, he's
TJ.
Jefferson. Oh, all right.
Good old TJ.
Okay. I was stuck in turn of the century. I was like, it wasn't Hoover. He's not up there.
No.
It wasn't Taft or Garfield.
No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
It wasn't the lasagna eating Garfield.
Right. Okay. Enough of that, though. Who you got on that?
That's tough, man, because if there's so many great players in each of these sports, and I tried to write down, some names. Obviously, someone like Lawrence Taylor, Jerry Rice, Reggie White, someone like a John Elway or Johnny Unitas also, kind of crossed my mind with some people. You have other people like in baseball, like Hank Aaron, Babe Ruth, Willie Mays. Those are some big guys. Like someone that's still currently playing, like Mike Trout, I think would eventually make it up there, but he's still an active player, so I'm a little hesitant on that. Someone like Junior, would he be on there if he didn't have to fight all his injuries? Obviously, I'm not really considering him, but someone as great as he was, but had to battle so many injuries. And then NBA, I think that one might be the easiest one.
Okay. Interesting.
But you have someone like Wilt Chamberlain, Magic Johnson, Bill Russell. Just some dominant players in their heyday. And then other players like Mario Lemieux, Gordie Howe, Bobby Orr, Mark Messier. those are just phenomenal career guys in their sport as well too. But I settled on I hate that I've supported this city now twice, and this player that I just hate so much.
Okay.
But Tom Brady is got to be the representative of the NFL. I mean, he's won 6 Super Bowls.
Okay.
I mean, Joe Montana should be considered as well too. But I mean, Tom Brady
can only pick one though, so that's the hardest part.
Brady.
Yeah. Okay.
It's Tom Brady for me. He's been doing it he's been winning championships since 2001 over a 20-year span.
Yeah. Joe
Montana's span was not nearly that long.
Yeah.
They both had long dynasties. Tom Brady's been able to do it. He's in his early mid 40s, so he's 42, 43, something like that. I mean, he's a great player. He's been able to do it for a long time. He's been consistent for a long time. I mean, there's no way that he can't be the NFL player for me.
Interesting.
And in baseball, I went with someone like Babe Ruth. I think is heavily considered, but I had to go with Ted Williams. Ted Williams was a .344 career hitter. 42 on-base percentage, which is the best in MLB history. He has over 500 home runs. He won the Triple Crown twice, and he's the last player in MLB history to hit 400 in a season. I mean, he was a 2-time AL MVP, 19-time All-Star for the Red Sox. I mean, it has to be Ted Williams. A lot of people are going to be like, "Oh, it's Babe Ruth." Like, is it though?
Yeah,
is
it? Right. I agree.
Is it?
Yeah.
Come on. Is it? He is not the best baseball player in history. I'm sorry, you can't give me that garbage. It's Ted Williams, a far superior hitter, an absolute Gold Glove stud.
Yeah.
He's 19-time All-Star. I mean, it's Ted Williams for me.
Gotcha.
I mean, there's other great players, of course.
Oh, of course.
Michael Jordan for the NBA.
Uh-huh.
Michael Jordan.
How much thought did you give that one?
I really went back and forth kind of between him and Magic. Nothing against Bill Russell, but I can't put 2 people from Boston up here, so that's not happening. And Wilt Chamberlain, I can only look at his stats and see some videos. Same with some of the others. Ted Williams. I mean, how much footage is there truly on Ted Williams? Not much.
Yeah.
But I mean, Michael Jordan is what really. It's sometimes more than stats. And while Michael had all the stats, I mean, his ability to market himself, was the start of sports marketing. I mean, Jordans, that's just beyond Michael Jordan now. That's an entire brand that was created and centered around one player. So, it has to be someone like Jordan who really helped recover basketball from a time that it was really struggling in the 90s and really helped, push it past that moving forward. And then in the NHL, it has to be the great one. It has to be Mr. Wayne Gretzky. I mean, he's still the leader, in almost everything out there. 894 goals, 1,963 assists, 2,857 career points, and it was a plus 520. I'm not big on the plus minus, but that's big right there. He won 4 cups with the Oilers, also played and went to a Stanley Cup with the Kings. Mm-hmm. Had a very short stint here in St. Louis, and then had a really good run to end his career in New York. And I mean, it has to be Wayne Gretzky for me in hockey. So what do you got?
I hear you. I like what you got there. Very validated as far as the picks he made. A lot of young blood in there, really, to say. I mean, a lot of those guys either are still in their career or not that far removed from their career, except for Williams, of course. But I like your picks, man. I think it's good. And as Eric was discussing, too, obviously, there's plenty of good players out there, so we would want to hear from you on your thoughts here. But as I break into, how did you start? Basketball? I guess
I started with the NFL.
NFL? Okay. Well, I'm going to work my way down. I'm going to go NBA, NFL. I'll go baseball, then NHL. All right. I don't care. I'm going to do it different than you, just a little.
Okay.
If that's all right. Okay. NBA is Oscar Robertson for me.
Okay.
Going big man. He demonstrated what it meant to be a defensive player, but also a high volume guard. As a tall dude, he was scoring points like it was no one's business at the time. And I think that still reigns true. And if you look at some of his lifetime stats and what he was doing in his professional career, every year he was setting a leadership in the league in stats across the board. So whether it was time played on the court or his shooting percentage, the guy was just a champion, and I think he did a lot for